Harlem is globally recognized as the cultural epicenter of Black America. But beneath the jazz legends and Renaissance poetry lies a fiercely protected, multi-generational financial infrastructure. The true power brokers of this iconic New York neighborhood don't chase the spotlight. They own the buildings the spotlight shines on. From quiet real estate barons who bought the block during redlining, to modern development dynasties holding nine-figure portfolios, these are the 15 richest Black families in Harlem. 15. The Samuelson family. When analyzing the modern revitalization of Harlem's commercial corridors, the financial footprint of Marcus Samuelson is unavoidable. While the public recognizes him as a celebrity chef, institutional investors recognize his family as brilliant hospitality architects. Opening Red Rooster in 2010 was not merely a culinary endeavor. It was a highly calculated real estate and cultural valuation play. Samuelson did not just lease a building. He essentially acted as an anchor tenant for an entire neighborhood's economic resurgence. The true wealth generated by the Samuelson enterprise stems from the halo effect. When a high-profile, globally recognized brand establishes a flagship location in a developing commercial zone, the underlying property values of the surrounding grid inevitably surge. Samuelson leveraged this cultural cachet to expand a massive international hospitality empire, securing lucrative partnerships, television syndications, and premium cookbook publishing deals. However, his Harlem base remains the beating heart of his portfolio. By anchoring his brand in Harlem, he secured highly favorable commercial terms early in the neighborhood's modern renaissance. His family's wealth is further insulated by vertical integration. They don't just sell food, they sell lifestyle, experiences, and localized tourism. Through the Marcus Samuelson Group, his family manages multiple properties, orchestrates massive culinary festivals, and dictates the commercial rhythm of Lenox Avenue. They prove that in the modern economy, high-end hospitality is not just about profit margins on a plate. It is about driving, controlling, and monetizing the commercial real estate narrative of an entire district. 14. The Day family. In the realm of global fashion and intellectual property, the financial narrative of Daniel Day, universally known as Dapper Dan, is a masterclass in asymmetrical leverage. In the 1980s, the Day family operated a boutique on 125th Street that essentially birthed luxury streetwear, illegally utilizing the logos of European fashion houses to create bespoke garments for hip-hop royalty and street entrepreneurs. While litigation eventually forced the original store to close, the cultural equity Day accumulated never depreciated. Decades later, the true financial harvest arrived. When Gucci was caught mimicking one of Day's iconic designs, he did not just demand a public apology. He demanded a corporate partnership. The Day family executed one of the most brilliant intellectual property reversals in modern corporate history. Gucci partnered with Dapper Dan to launch a sprawling, highly exclusive atelier in a historic Harlem brownstone, entirely funded by the Italian conglomerate, but operated under Day's creative sovereignty. This maneuver catapulted the family's wealth from underground cash flow to corporate global equity. Dapper Dan transformed his personal mythos into a heavily capitalized, globally distributed luxury brand. He now commands massive consulting fees, literary advances for his memoirs, and global brand ambassadorships. The Day family's financial architecture relies on the ultimate intangible asset: undeniable cultural authenticity. They demonstrated that if you dictate the aesthetic of the culture long enough, eventually, the multi-billion-dollar conglomerates will be forced to pay you premium dividends just to sit at your table. 13. The Webb family. When examining the physical ownership of Harlem, you must look at the brokers who facilitated the transfers of power. Eugene Webb, the co-founder of Webb and Brooker, is a quiet, undisputed titan of Harlem real estate. In the late 1960s and 1970s, as urban flight decimated New York City and traditional banking institutions systematically redlined minority neighborhoods, the Webb family saw an unprecedented acquisition opportunity. Webb and Brooker started by managing distressed properties that outside landlords were desperate to offload. In real estate, the property manager holds the supreme advantage of asymmetrical information. They know the exact cash flow, maintenance costs, and underlying value of the asset. Webb leveraged this inside knowledge to slowly transition from property management to aggressive property acquisition. He bought up residential blocks, commercial storefronts, and multifamily units across Harlem at the absolute market floor. As the decades passed and the New York real estate market inevitably rebounded, the Webb family's portfolio exploded in valuation. Furthermore, Eugene Webb played a pivotal role in founding the Carver Federal Savings Bank, ensuring that Black developers had an institutional lending mechanism to bypass racist commercial banking policies. The Webb family's wealth is incredibly dense, rooted entirely in brick, mortar, and institutional banking equity. They are the silent landlords of the Harlem Renaissance, proving that the greatest generational wealth is forged during periods of maximum market panic. 12. The Procope family. You cannot build a skyline, operate a hospital, or run a transportation grid without commercial insurance. Ernesta Procope, the matriarch of the Procope family, recognized this fundamental corporate truth and built a financial fortress upon it. In 1953, she founded E.G. Bowman, a commercial insurance brokerage located right on Fulton Street. While initially focused on providing essential coverage to local Harlem residents and small businesses, Procope's ambitions were decidedly corporate. She executed a historic, ruthless pivot into the mainstream commercial sector. The Procope family utilized their deep political and social connections in Harlem to secure the insurance contracts for massive municipal projects. Eventually, E.G. Bowman became the first minority-owned business to relocate to Wall Street. From their downtown headquarters, the Procope family brokered multi-million-dollar liability policies for Fortune 500 giants like PepsiCo, IBM, and Time Warner, while continuously funneling the profits and influence back into their Harlem base. Ernesta Procope's wealth architecture was brilliant because it relied on mandatory corporate spending. Large-scale enterprises are legally required to carry commercial liability insurance. By capturing a slice of that massive, recurring institutional cash flow, the Procope family amassed nine-figure wealth. They didn't just build a business. They established a financial conduit between the corporate wealth of Wall Street and the foundational elite of Harlem, cementing their legacy as the most powerful Black insurance dynasty in American history. 11. The Rangel family. In cities like New York, political capital is a highly convertible currency. The Rangel family, led by the legendary Congressman Charles Rangel, utilized decades of absolute political dominance to build a formidable network of influence, consulting equity, and institutional wealth. Serving in the United States House of Representatives from 1971 to 2017, Rangel did not just represent Harlem. He dictated the flow of federal and state funds into the neighborhood. While congressional salaries are public and modest by elite standards, the true wealth of political dynasties is found in the peripheral economy they control. The Rangel family built immense social and structural capital. They directed billions of dollars in urban development grants, tax incentives, and empowerment zone funding into Harlem. Consequently, the family positioned themselves at the nexus of public policy and private enterprise. Following his retirement, the political Rolodex amassed by the Rangel family became a highly monetizable asset. Lobbying, strategic consulting, and corporate board directorships command massive premiums for families who possess intimate knowledge of federal regulatory frameworks. Furthermore, the Rangel family has historically maintained significant real estate interests in Harlem, capitalizing on the very economic empowerment zones they helped legislate. Their wealth is a testament to the power of legislative leverage. They prove that when you control the municipal and federal zoning laws of a rapidly appreciating neighborhood, you inherently control the financial destiny of the grid. 10. The Rodney family. Whoever controls the media controls the narrative, and whoever controls the narrative controls the advertising revenue. Carl and Faye Rodney understood this principle perfectly when they founded the New York Carib News in 1981. Harlem has historically been a massive hub for the Caribbean American diaspora, a highly educated, upwardly mobile demographic that mainstream media completely ignored. The Rodney family did not just start a newspaper, they engineered a highly lucrative monopolistic media funnel. By serving as the undisputed voice of the Caribbean community in New York, the Rodney family captured the absolute attention of a specific, targeted consumer base. Corporations, airlines, telecommunications giants, and international tourism boards realized that if they wanted to access the billions of dollars in disposable income held by Caribbean Americans, they had to pay the Rodney family for the access. The family expanded their wealth beyond print advertising by establishing massive, high-ticket networking events. Their annual multinational business conference attracts heads of state, Fortune 500 CEOs, and political titans, operating as a highly profitable summit that generates massive corporate sponsorship revenue. The Rodney family's wealth is built on niche dominance. They recognized an underserved, highly profitable demographic right in their Harlem backyard, built a proprietary media fence around it, and charged corporate America premium rates to enter. 9. The Petioni and Wright families. Generational wealth is often quiet, unassuming, and completely bulletproof. The lineage of Dr. Muriel Petioni, often referred to as the matriarch of Harlem health, and her father, Charles Augustin Petioni, represents a deeply entrenched, profoundly wealthy medical dynasty. In the early to mid-20th century, Black physicians in Harlem were not just medical providers. They were the apex of the social and economic elite. The wealth accumulation strategy of these medical families was highly consistent. Earn high-margin professional fees and immediately deploy that capital into local real estate. Operating private practices out of massive, multi-story Harlem brownstones, the Petioni family circumvented the discriminatory commercial leasing market. They bought the buildings outright. Over the decades, as the Harlem real estate market underwent multiple cycles of boom and bust, these medical families simply held their ground, treating their physical properties as generational trusts. Furthermore, Dr. Petioni founded the Friends of Harlem Hospital Center, raising millions in philanthropic capital and wielding immense influence over municipal health budgets. The wealth of the Petioni family is characterized by extreme stability. They possessed recession-proof earning power through elite medical expertise and compounded that income through decades of uninterrupted real estate appreciation. They represent the classic, dignified, old money sector of Harlem. Families whose wealth is measured not in flashy media deals, but in unencumbered property deeds and profound community reverence. 8. The Smalls family. In the 1920s and beyond, Harlem nightlife was a global, multi-million-dollar industry, and Ed Smalls was its undisputed architect. As the founder of Smalls Paradise, the Smalls family operated one of the only major nightclubs in Harlem that was actually owned by a Black entrepreneur, and crucially, one that permitted an integrated clientele. While the Cotton Club was owned by white gangsters and excluded Black patrons, Smalls Paradise was an autonomous Black financial engine. The wealth generated by the Smalls family was built on massive, unceasing cash flow. Nightclubs during the jazz era were essentially unregulated cash machines, generating enormous daily revenues from food, liquor, and entertainment. But Ed Smalls was not merely a club promoter. He was a strategic financier. He utilized the immense liquidity of his nightclub to fund local civil rights initiatives, bail out activists, and quietly accumulate vast real estate holdings across the neighborhood. Smalls Paradise wasn't just a business. It was an institution that operated for nearly 60 years, surviving the Great Depression, Prohibition, and multiple urban crises. The Smalls family wealth is a masterclass in converting high-risk, high-yield entertainment revenue into permanent legacy-defining hard assets. By owning the premier destination for global celebrities, politicians, and local elite, they monetized the absolute peak of the Harlem Renaissance and secured a financial dynasty that funded generations of their descendants. 7. The Alexander family. When discussing the absolute zenith of corporate and institutional wealth originating from Harlem, the Alexander family is paramount. Clifford Alexander Jr., raised in Harlem, ascended to the very highest corridors of American power, serving as the first Black Secretary of the Army. However, the family's true financial magnitude was achieved in the private sector through elite corporate consulting and board directorships. Following his government service, Alexander founded Alexander & Associates, a highly exclusive corporate consulting firm that advised multinational conglomerates on workforce inclusion and executive structuring. The fees associated with this level of elite corporate advisory are astronomical. Furthermore, Alexander served on the boards of directors for corporate behemoths such as Dun & Bradstreet, IBM, and Mutual of America Life Insurance. Sitting on these boards grants massive equity compensation, stock options, and deeply entrenched institutional power. The family's legacy of elite wealth continued with his daughter, Elizabeth Alexander, a globally recognized scholar, poet, and currently the president of the Mellon Foundation, managing an endowment of over $8 billion. While she manages philanthropic funds, the sheer institutional gravity of the Alexander family is undeniable. Their wealth was built not on retail or local real estate, but on intellectual capital, elite academic credentials, and the navigation of the highest, most exclusive corporate boardrooms in the world. They are the ultimate expression of Harlem's intellectual elite transitioning into corporate oligarchy. 6. The Dickens family. If you want to understand who physically owned the commercial grid of Harlem, you must study the Dickens brothers. Lloyd and Thomas Dickens were real estate pioneers who operated with aggressive, territorial precision. Moving to Harlem in the 1930s, the brothers recognized that the severe racial discrimination of the era created a highly inefficient real estate market. White landlords were fleeing, and properties were undervalued, yet black buyers were systematically denied mortgages. The Dickens brothers bypassed the banks. They utilized collective economics, pooling cash resources to purchase their first brownstones outright. They then used the rental cash flow from those initial properties to purchase the next, creating a self-sustaining real estate snowball. By the 1950s, they had acquired so much commercial and residential real estate that a prominent intersection at 147th Street and 8th Avenue was colloquially known as Dickens Corner. Their wealth was fortified by political power. Lloyd Dickens served as a New York State Assemblyman, ensuring that he had a direct hand in the legislative zoning and urban planning policies that impacted his massive real estate portfolio. The Dickens family strategy was brilliant. They bought distressed assets in a red line district with cash, generated high-yield rental income, and protected those assets through local political dominance. They are the quintessential Harlem land barons, turning a localized crisis into a sprawling, multi-generational real estate empire. 5. The Woods family. Sylvia Woods is globally celebrated as the queen of soul food, but on Wall Street, the Woods family is respected as pioneers of fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG, and aggressive real estate accumulation. When Sylvia and her husband Herbert purchased their small Harlem luncheonette in 1962, they were entering the brutal, low-margin restaurant business. Most restaurant families go bankrupt within a decade. The Woods family built a syndicate. Their first stroke of financial genius was purchasing the physical real estate of their restaurant. By owning the building on Lenox Avenue, they completely eliminated the threat of rent hikes and gentrification, ensuring their primary asset compounded in value. As Sylvia's restaurant became a global tourist destination, the family leveraged that immense brand equity to execute a highly lucrative vertical integration strategy. They did not just sell meals. They bottled their proprietary sauces, canned their vegetables, and launched a nationwide line of Sylvia's food products. Securing distribution deals with national supermarket conglomerates transformed the Woods family from local restaurateurs into national manufacturers. They monetized their brand while they slept. Today, the Woods family enterprise controls a massive real estate portfolio in Harlem, oversees a nationwide commercial distribution network, and manages a powerful philanthropic foundation. They proved that a localized cultural landmark could be scaled, packaged, and monetized into a heavily diversified nine-figure family holding company. 4. The Graves family. Earl G. Graves, Sr. did not just accumulate wealth, he literally published the manual on how to do it. Born and raised in Brooklyn but deeply entrenched in the cultural and economic fabric of Harlem, Graves founded Black Enterprise magazine in 1970. In doing so, he engineered one of the most brilliant advertising arbitrages in publishing history. Graves recognized a massive blind spot in corporate America. Fortune 500 companies believed the Black demographic only consumed entertainment and sports. Graves proved that a massive, affluent black professional class existed, and they were starving for financial literature. By aggregating this elite readership, Graves forced luxury car manufacturers, global banks, and high-end tech companies to buy premium advertising space in his magazine. He essentially brokered the relationship between white corporate capital and the black elite. But the Graves family wealth extends far beyond publishing. Earl Graves utilized his massive corporate leverage to acquire a Pepsi-Cola bottling franchise in Washington, D.C., operating a heavy industry distribution monopoly that generated tens of millions in localized revenue. He sat on the boards of Chrysler and American Airlines, accumulating massive equity stakes. The Graves family, now led by Earl Butch Graves Jr., transformed a publishing company into a multi-tiered corporate conglomerate. They are the definitive vanguard of black corporate wealth, dictating the financial narrative of the culture while quietly owning the printing press. 3. The Payton family. To discuss the wealth of Harlem without honoring Philip A. Payton Jr. is to ignore the foundation of the neighborhood itself. Known as the father of Black Harlem, Payton's wealth architecture was built in the early 1900s, but the scale of his operations rivals any modern real estate syndicate. At the turn of the century, Harlem was a white, upper-middle-class neighborhood, experiencing a severe real estate crash due to overbuilding and delayed subway construction. Payton, operating the Afro-American Realty Company, executed the ultimate real estate coup. He aggressively approached desperate white landlords who were facing foreclosure and offered to manage their empty properties, guaranteeing them above-market rents. His leverage? He moved middle-class black families into these buildings, families who were willing to pay a premium to escape the overcrowded, dangerous slums of downtown Manhattan. When white tenants fled in response, property values temporarily plummeted, allowing Payton's syndicate to buy the buildings outright at deeply discounted rates. He effectively engineered the demographic shift of the most famous neighborhood in the world, utilizing institutional blockbusting in reverse. He pooled investments from black professionals, creating a massive capitalized real estate trust. While Payton died relatively young, his family and his corporate infrastructure created the physical borders of Black Harlem. He proved that strategic real estate acquisition could not only build staggering personal wealth, but actively rewrite the demographic geography of a global metropolis. 2. The Peebles family. Moving into the realm of modern, multi-billion-dollar institutional development, the Peebles family stands as a colossus over the New York skyline. R. Donahue Peebles, founder of the Peebles Corporation, operates the largest minority-owned real estate development firm in the United States, managing a portfolio exceeding $3 billion. While his empire is national, his strategic, highly aggressive developments in Harlem reflect the absolute peak of modern urban capitalization. The financial genius of the Peebles family lies in public-private partnerships, PPP. Peebles does not just buy empty lots. He expertly navigates the intensely political municipal landscape to acquire highly coveted, city-owned properties. A prime example is his acquisition and development of landmark structures in Harlem, transforming historic, underutilized spaces into ultra-luxury condominiums and premium commercial retail spaces. This level of development requires navigating mezzanine financing, securing nine-figure institutional loans from global sovereign wealth funds, and executing flawless construction logistics. Peebles buys at scale, builds at scale, and monetizes at scale. His wealth is entirely insulated by hard assets and global equity. He resides in ultra-exclusive estates, commands political respect at the highest levels of government, and dictates the modern gentrification narrative. The Peebles family represents the ultimate evolution of Harlem real estate, moving from local brownstone accumulation to global, skyline-altering skyscraper development. 1. The Sutton family. We have arrived at the absolute sovereign of Harlem. Percy Sutton was not just a politician, an attorney, or a businessman. He was the undisputed kingpin of the Harlem economy. As the founder of Inner City Broadcasting Corporation, the Sutton family built an empire that merged media monopoly, cultural preservation, and hard-nosed political leverage into an indestructible financial dynasty. The Sutton wealth originated from a highly strategic media acquisition. In 1971, Sutton led a syndicate of investors to purchase WLIB-AM, becoming the first black-owned radio station in New York City. He quickly followed this by acquiring WBLS-FM, which pioneered the urban contemporary format. By controlling the dominant radio frequencies in the largest media market in the world, the Sutton family held absolute pricing power over advertising. They controlled what New York listened to, and corporations paid them millions to interrupt the music. But Percy Sutton's most legendary financial flex was his acquisition of the Apollo Theater in 1981. When the venue went bankrupt, Sutton bought it, completely renovated it, and revitalized it by producing the televised It's Showtime at the Apollo, transforming a local physical theater into a massive, globally syndicated television revenue stream. He verticalized his empire. He owned the radio stations that promoted the artists, the theater where they performed, and the television production company that broadcasted the footage. The Sutton family represents the pinnacle of Harlem wealth, an empire built on brilliant media arbitrage, historical preservation, and absolute cultural sovereignty. From the culinary architects defining modern hospitality to the real estate titans who literally engineered the borders of Black Wall Street in New York, these families prove that Harlem's true currency is ownership. They didn't just survive redlining and economic downturns. They capitalized on them, building financial fortresses that will stand for generations. Which of these quiet powerhouses surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. For more deep dives into the unwritten geography of elite wealth, like this video and subscribe to Black Status.